Hello, everybody, from Studio A in Texas, USA. Welcome to the In Wheel Time Car Show, your all things automotive car talk show. This hour, we visit with Mark Rancart and take a peek at what he's working on over at Sweet Rides. We'll have new car reviews of the Jeep Gladiator Mojave and the Mercedes-Benz GLE 450. We'll also have this week's automotive news, the Mystery Garage. Conrad's going to have the car clinic. It's all just ahead in a jam-packed 2-hour in-wheel time car show for Saturday, August the 8th, 2020. Howdy, along with Mike Out of This World Mars and King Conrad DeLong. I'm Don Armstrong. So glad that you could join us. We really appreciate your live look at our little show here. And like I said, we've got a good show. We were just talking before we went on the air about Mark Rancourt and Sweet Rides, and you're going to tell me when he's ready, aren't you? Yes, you will tell me. Okay, very good. We had to call him. Actually, he called us, and we missed the phone call, and so we're getting all that hooked up as we speak right now. But at any rate, give you a little background on Mark. Mark came to us through a friend of ours, and actually it was Randy Borcherding over at his place of business.
Yeah, Paint House.
At Paint House. And I had contacted Randy Borcherding through somebody else. I don't remember how I met Randy, but at any rate, that went down the line there, and because I was looking for somebody to restore, paint, fix up, help me with the 66 Corvair that was a field find.
The original in-wheel time.
Yes, the original in-wheel time machine. And it was this god-awful color called Aztec bronze.
Kind of a poopy copper.
Actually, what it looked
That
like.
was on a good day when it came from the factory, and it was new.
What it looked like after sitting out in the sun for 50 years, it looked like bad red primer.
And that's giving it credit for looking well.
It was bad. It was real bad. And the interior color was the same.
But it was an originally Houston-sold car by Knapp Chevrolet.
And it was all original and didn't have any rust in it and got it running and did all that stuff. So
did a wonderful job on it. I mean, it looked awesome when it was done.
Yeah, it took many months, but because car restoration like that takes time. And I told Mark, I said, I'm not under any rush here to get this done. I said, I'd like to get it so we're ready for the Houston Autorama.
Didn't say which year.
Yeah. Well, as it turned out, we made it. And I had about 6 weeks to go. And once Mark got finished with it, and then we took it over to my buddy over at the
Texas Truck Works?
No. Took it. Well, I did take it over there to get it lowered and did some suspension work on it. But I took it over to.
Gosh, did you forget to take your Prevagen? We need to get Prevagen as a sponsor. Get on that, Jeff.
It was all that liquor that Jeff put in me last night. Oh. You got to blame it on somebody. Blame it on him. God. At any rate, so we had the interior done, and we wound up showing the car at Autorama, and everybody seemed to like it.
It attracted a lot of attention. Lots of people came over to talk about it and tell you it looked like a Camaro.
Yeah, or
a modified Camaro.
Or that I turned it around and put the engine in the front. Remember that? Remember that comment?
That one guy was just adamant, though.
Yeah. So at any rate, thanks goes to Mark Rancourt out at Sweet Rides, because if it weren't for Mark, we would have never reached that plateau. I ultimately, a couple years later, sold the car, and it now resides. Well, I sold it to the guy that is the owner of Edible Arrangements, who lives in Atlanta. So the car was shipped to Atlanta, and I assume that it resides in his collection.
And he may have done some of the things you didn't do, because I always wanted you to put the LS motor in it, and you never did, but that's okay. But the car looked awesome. I mean, and that was the one thing I remember Mark, when he was at the station that one time, and we walked downstairs, and you showed him what those stripes looked like. I don't remember what you were driving, and he said, "I am not putting stripes."
No, stickers.
Stickers.
I'm not putting stickers on the car. I said, okay, well.
So he painted the color on.
Painted the stripes on it. And I don't know why, but we don't have that in our picture collection that we can show everybody. We'll go through that. We'll find it. I'll send you a photo of it. But At any rate, it was a fun project, kinda. Had to send the carburetors off, get those rebuilt, and even though that they were one-barrel carburetors and were relatively simple,
But there were two of them.
there were two of them. Actually, my original Corvair back in high school, it had 4 one-barrels. Can you imagine trying to tune that? That was a pain.
Well, and it takes a talented person that knows how to find the balance in 2 carburetors, 3 carburetors, or 4 carburetors, depending on what kind of vehicle you're driving.
Yes, and exactly where, at what point of the throttle do other carburetors come into play in feeding the engine the gas and the air that it needs. So all of it needs to be balanced, and the Corvair was not some sort of a Indy car by any stretch of the imagination, but you had to know what you were doing.
Sure, because it had, multi-carburetors. You have to make sure both carburetors are delivering at the same rate,
Right.
or you get, because one carburetor feeds 2 cylinders, 3 cylinders, the other carburetor feeds the other 3, and when you're off balance, the car doesn't run right.
Right, and the other thing is that engine was unique from Chevrolet in the fact that it was a flat 6.
Air-cooled flat 6.
An air-cooled flat 6, and they were kind of trying to bridge the gap between the Volkswagen Beetle and a Porsche.
Well, I think when Corvair came out, the Porsche 912 and the 356 were still 4-cylinder cars.
Yeah.
The 6-cylinder Corvair or Porsche 911 didn't come out until after the Corvair was in production a couple of years.
Yeah.
So Chevrolet was the first one with a mass-produced, if you consider a 911 to have been a mass-produced engine, air-cooled 6-cylinder, much less multi-carb, much less turbocharged.
And it was a horizontally opposed 6-cylinder. So you had 3 cylinders on each side going back and forth with each other, as opposed to a V6 or an inline 6. Mm-hmm. So it was unique. And I know that the Corvair that I had back in '69, it was a Corsa. It had the 4 one-barrels on it and a 4-speed manual transmission. The one that Mark worked on had a 2-speed
automatic
slush-o-matic in it, but the 4-speed, it would get up and go pretty well, especially after I had those carburetors rebuilt by the guy that worked at Richardson Chevrolet, where I worked at. He was the carburetor guy, the tune-up guy.
Well, back in those days, there were carburetor guys and tune-up guys. Today, I think
they're computer operators.
Well, I think you could struggle bringing a vehicle into most shops that needs the carburetor worked on. You're going to have to go find a somewhat of a specialized shop that's going to be able to do carburetor work, because nobody's done any carburetor work for 10, 15 years, even closer to 20 years.
Well, I learned the lesson with the Corvair, never to ever have carburetors again. What a pain. We didn't realize it back in the day. They worked for so long. Yeah, I know. Shut up.
I seem to remember somebody told you to put an FI on it, but that's okay.
Well, I know. But I can't imagine spending that kind of money on a Corvair. No, that was not going to happen. However, you did convince me that if I ever had that original Z28 Camaro with the 302 solid lifter motor in it, throw away the carburetor.
Don't throw it away. If it's the original carburetor for the car, box it up and keep it somewhere. But I would put a fuel injection system on top of it in place of the carburetor, and lots of people make those. And that might be something the folks out at Sweet Rides could help you make that decision on, is putting a fuel injection system in place of a carburetor.
Well, if anybody were to know, it would be Mark Rancourt, who has finally joined us. A little late, but Mark, it's good to see you. How are you?
Apologies, technical difficulty. Sorry.
Well, that's all right.
We know what technical difficulties are. We've got Mars here with us all the time.
That's right. We've been working for 2 hours trying to get some new actually 2 hours and now 4 weeks. And we still can't get new cameras on. So we're quite familiar with all of that. Yeah. Are you at the shop?
I'm sorry?
Are you out there at Sweet Rides this morning?
Yeah, he's sitting in the office right now.
Well, why aren't we in the office? I want to go out there and see the cars.
Oh, sure, we can do that too. Hey, Conrad, I want to thank you for the referral that you gave me.
John, his Cougar, he's kept he's kept a good care of the Cougar, other than just time has caught up with him. And I tried to set the stage for you with him because I was like, well, what do you expect of the car? What do you expect of the restoration? And then the final question, which is always should be the first question, is what's your budget? So I'm sure he shared all of that. John's a long friend of mine. I'm going to say, 30 plus years friend of mine. And when he'd asked me who would I take a vehicle to, what would I do? And I said, I'd definitely take it to Sweet Rides in Magnolia. And then I think he's coming to you at Lake Conroe anyhow, so the location works for him.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to take a little tour of the shop, and I know that
right now we're down here in the paint shop.
Yeah, because when I was up there, at the other end of that complex there that you have for Sweet Rides, you were working on multiple cars, and I know that you always have a full house over there. Actually, so much so that there. Can we not make his picture any bigger? Can't make it. It's him. Okay. So at any rate, so what are you showing us a picture of there, Mark?
Well, here we just got this is like the paint shop area down here, right? So we've got. This one we're just about finished with, a little mid-'80s Chevy truck. In the booth there, we've got a Blazer that we did a lot of, and that's going to be super nice.
Yes, but, I saw the Blazer when I was out there. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's very cool.
Yeah, you saw that. Yeah, when you were.
Yeah.
And the C10 is all the rage right now. C10s are one of the more popular ones. Everybody's trying to refurbish, restore, modify, resto mod. So I love that color.
So, Mark, the blue one there that you're showing us, was that a body off restoration that you're doing there?
Not necessarily a body off. I mean, we pulled the bed. We didn't pull the cab. The motor already done.
Oh, I see. Okay. The reception out there in Magnolia isn't all that.
Left the fenders on. And the better.
Mark, if you can hear us, can
you hear me now?
Well, you need to get out from underneath that metal building that you're in there.
Because it's kind of slowing you down and your video's a little choppy.
Yeah.
But that's okay. You're doing what we asked because we wanted you to walk through the shop
but that cup and string phone company that you're currently hiring for your cell phone service sucks.
Right, I know. I'm sorry.
That's all right. But at any rate, so get outside now because I wanted to talk to you. I was hyping up all of the stuff that you do out there, and I wanted to let everybody know Mark had a major body shop called Rancourt Collision out there off of 290 for decades. Mm-hmm. And he sold it. You sold it at the beginning of the year so you could devote your full attention to Sweet Rides. And from what I saw when I was out there, now that you're out there, you've got a full house and cars waiting in line to get in because things seem to have picked up the pace out there in the past year since you've been out there.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate out here. I think we're right about a year and a half's waiting list to get in. If on a full restoration, if it's a little spot job or something, like we've got a few of those in here, those will go in pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine.
But as far as the complete frame offs, they're going to take a little while.
And they always do. It's not a matter of how much time they take, because they take a lot of time, but it's also about how much space they take. Because doing a frame off is you take everything off the frame and you have to store it someplace so you could put it all back on the frame at some place. So it absorbs a lot of space in that aspect as well.
Mark, let me ask you, do you actually do you powder coat the frames out there, or do you send the frames off to get them powder coated?
That just depends on what the customer wants. I mean, no, I don't do powder coating myself.
Yeah, because, I mean, that takes a special facility.
So a lot of times we'll pay the customer, we'll get them powder coated.
Gotcha, yeah. But, to keep the cost down, if you really want to do it, and by keeping the cost down, you can clean up the frame if the car has a frame, which most do, especially in the categories that you're dealing with. But to do a good job, I mean, a good paint job on a frame will be just fine, especially if you're going to drive the car. I mean, when I think of powder coating,
Correct.
I think of, high gloss, let's put the mirrors underneath the car. Let's get under there and dust it off for every car show that we do. Whereas opposed to painting it, you can put a really nice paint job on it and still be able to drive it and protect the frame the way it's supposed to be and take care of all the imperfections on the frame. People have welded stuff on it, might have a accident damage, whatever the case may be. So there are other alternatives other than hot painting it, if you want to call it that. Yeah.
Or, I mean, sometimes it's even cheaper just to get a custom frame. I had a gentleman come in last week, and he had spent $45,000 on someone modifying his original frame. And I said, you could have got away with this frame setup that we have on a custom 5-window truck that he could have been a third of the cost. Just buying a whole frame instead of dealing with the original.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think when I was out there, you had unboxing or something, I remember distinctly, some sort of a custom frame that you'd taken delivery on, and you were going to put I think it was a truck on it.
Yeah, it was a 53 5-window.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've got it sitting right over here, so I mean, hopefully you guys can see it. But
well, you need to stand outside.
Switch it around.
You need to stand out. Yeah, you need to stand outside in the open air so that cup and string phone company will work kinda, so we can get you.
Okay. So something like that right there. You get a whole complete frame setup.
Yeah.
Well, and it would have been better for that customer to have come in and talked with you ahead of time before he spent all that money on his old frame and got a little counsel from you who does this for a living and understands the cost basis of restoring and modifying versus replacing.
Right. 100%. So that's what a lot of people try to do this stuff at home at first, and they think they're saving monies, because they're going to do it themselves. And in actuality, it costs them 3 times more because they didn't get any advice up front.
And then you have to redo so much of what they've already done.
Yeah, and they'll end up taking to 3 or 4 different shops. It's kind of like that Blazer that was down there in the paint booth. I think that I am his 4th shop that truck's been to.
Oh, my.
So he's been took pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I want to bring up a vehicle that you had in there that you were putting a new front end on it. That was that Mustang. And
yes.
Yeah. I don't remember what year that was, but rust was a major issue that you were dealing with.
Yes.
And
so we've already got the front end all well.
Mark, your signal really sucks. You need to go. You really
go back
need to
into your office where you were.
Go back to your office where you were, because the shield that you have around out there is probably that high security area there at Sweet Rides that's preventing anybody from coming in at the Death Star,
the dome or something that's all around it,
so nobody can see the secret sauce he's building back there.
That's exactly.
The cone of silence.
Yeah.
Well, I apologize.
No, nothing to apologize for. We've crossed this path more frequently than you think.
Yeah, exactly. So I was going to say about the rust issue. Down here in Houston, if it's a Houston, Texas car, generally speaking, rust is not a major issue. But that was a major issue with that car that looked to be like it was really not from these parts, unless it was fresh from the beach or something like that. I mean, it was bad.
It was really bad and unsafe, right? So that's why we did what we did. There's also, other than just fixing a car and painting it and patching some rust, there's still a liability issue when you're building a car.
Right.
And you've got to still make sure it's safe.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that you and I discussed over that car out there. Why don't you explain that to everybody about the liability issue? Because you could put the best paint job on it and make it look really good going down the road, but if it's not safe, no, that ain't the way to do it.
And cutting corners is not the way to go. So I won't let a customer cut any corners to save a little monies, because I have a liability, because if somebody got hurt in that vehicle or something happened to it while they were driving, then because I was the last one to work on it, it's my fault.
Well, and then with your experience, especially like on a Mustang or something, you kind of know where its problem areas are, so you kind of know what to look at ahead of time.
Yeah. And each each car line has its own areas where the rust comes up on them. So, and the Mustangs are, what they nicknamed them back in the day, the Rustangs. So, they rusted everywhere.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but I mean, when you get back to that era, I mean, the manufacturers really didn't do a whole lot with when it comes to rust prevention on cars like they do today.
Correct. Well, and they didn't have the correct sealers, or I mean, I say correct. I mean, back in the day, what they had for materials, obviously, here we are, numerous years later with much better products to use to seam seal than they had back in the day.
Right. How do you treat? I know this is going to be kind of off the wall here, but for the Corvair that I brought you, it had a major rust issue up underneath the front cowl, right underneath the windshield. And you see that with a lot of cars, especially those cars that have that chrome trim around the windshield where the water just sits there all the time. And
Correct.
And I brought you a new cowl panel, and you guys fit it in there, and you couldn't even tell that that you guys had done the work. But that's a major issue. And don't most cars these days of the classic era, let's just say '68. Let's use the Mustang. You can buy all of those parts and pieces and cut out the old rust and put in a new panel much easier than trying to repair the rust, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just like this Camaro we have sitting in here, he had rust on the bottom of the fenders on his original fenders. We would have liked to have kept the original fenders, but for the cost of a new fender, it was cheaper to put new fenders on it than fix the originals.
How much does a new fender cost for, let's say, that Camaro that you're working on, a reproduction?
I think that fender was $180. Or if we would have fixed the patch, because we bill by the hour, he could have had $450 just in fixing the rust panel on the original fender.
Exactly. So there's a huge savings there. So I guess what I'm saying is that for anybody that's watching the show, that if you've got a rust issue on a classic car, you really need to do a little investigation and find out whether or not there's a panel that is reproduced for it. Not all of the reproduction panels necessarily fit, but you can always maneuver them around, maybe have to do a little nip and tuck there, but you can make it work, and still at a whole lot less price than it would be if you're trying to fix a big rust area in the bottom of a fender.
Unless you're going to fix it with paper mache, and there's people out there that do that. I'm sure Mark has run into a few of them.
Oh yeah, we've run into some few that it's like, you got to be kidding me.
How about those floorboards, Mark?
What's that?
How about those floorboards?
Oh, jeez. Like on this Mustang, that was horrible. I mean, we spent more time cleaning up the underside than we did putting the front end on.
Oh, gosh.
And fixing the rust on the underside of that.
Well,
thing.
because it had been attempted to, I wouldn't even say it was an attempt to fix the rusted floorboards. I mean, it was a patchwork of this and that, and I'm surprised that there weren't license plates kind of tacked into that thing.
Hey,
trust me, we've seen license plates and aluminum signs riveted on floor pans.
I used a stop sign in my '65 Chevelle.
Guilty. That he stole from the neighborhood because he didn't have the metal.
Well, this was back in the '70s, so I think the statute of limitations has expired by now.
No.
But again, Mark, this all comes back to all of this Don's been talking about the corrosion, how you can go so deep into fixing something where replacing it can be cheaper. That's where coming to a place like Sweet Rides makes good sense because, again, you can coach and counsel them on and give them some direction on what's the smartest way to go.
Right. Smartest, cost effective, and what's going to be a better end result for them.
Mark, I know that you're in the hot rod restoration business and repair and paint and all of that sort of stuff. Do you have a hot rod yourself?
I do. I've got a 67, holy moly, 67 Camaro SSRS numbers matching 396 car.
Oh my gosh.
with AC, so it's a pretty rare car.
With AC, that's a very rare car.
Yes.
So you know,
and I drive the living daylights out of it.
well, that's good
I
because
would
that's
hope
what
so.
you should do. And that was the other thing that we wanted to talk to you about is the kind of work that you turn out. And we're going to take a break, Mark. I want you to stay with us, and we're going to be back. and talk to you more because we want to talk about Sweet Rides and the affordability, so to speak, of the Sweet Rides restoration and repair. So can you hang in there with us for a minute?
And your internet's good where you're at right now.
Yeah, so don't move.
Yeah, if you don't melt.
Yeah. So we got more of In Wheel Time coming up after this.
Are you one of those people who thinks it's okay to drive stoned? I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You end up driving below the speed limit? It's no big deal, right? Wrong. The truth is, your reaction times slow way down when you're high. You not only put yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Talk about a buzzkill. Stop kidding yourself. It's not okay to drive high. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hey, it's the In Wheel Time car show here. I know that we've got a car review that we're gonna do that after Mark's next segment because we're running a little bit behind. So we appreciate Mark hanging in there with us. We're going to get to him with more Sweet Ride stuff right after a quick stop here to talk about the car calendar and the racing calendar.
Well, car calendar is kind of stuff that's out in the future a little bit. Next weekend, the Texas Autobahn Cruise Control long haul event. And Don and I and Jeff all went on their forest cruise about 2 months ago. This one's going to start at 290 in Hollister at the Chick-fil-A right there. And they're going to go north up to Hempstead, over towards College Station, through some of the back roads up there, and then through the National Forest and stuff. Looks like it's going to be a real fun ride again. And then on the
Wait a minute. Who's doing that?
The Texas Autobahn, not the Audubon, not the guys with the birds. This is the car club, the Texas Autobahn.
Okay, Texas Autobahn.
And then on the 22nd, Showplace Classics is going to have their Twilight Car Show from 3 to 8 p.m. at the Brazos Town Center. They're going to be giving out awards and everything, and that's at 24934 Commercial Drive in Rosenberg. On the September 26th, the third annual Car and Bike Show in Montgomery at Lake Church. Also on the 26th, and I think we're going to be there if it's still going on, is Woody's second annual Waterfront Car Show at Topwater Grill in San Leon. October 3rd is going to be the Military and Veterans High Performance Driving event out at the Houston Police Academy, and that starts at 7 a.m. October 3rd. Racing calendar, the local dirt tracks, the Cotton Bowl in Page has got races tonight, all classes. The 105 Speedway in Cleveland has races tonight. The Gulf Coast Speedway down in Alvin has races tonight. And then the Texana Speedway in Edna is going to be next weekend. This weekend, Indy cars are at Mid-Ohio. Formula One is at Silverstone again. NASCAR is at Michigan, and then Indianapolis NHRA is going on this weekend, and we're rooting for our friend Erica Enders.
And don't forget that next weekend, Houston Motorsports Park, 3/8 mile asphalt. Yeah, and that's going to be next Saturday night, 6 o'clock.
And I hear they're going to have a guest pace car driver driving a classic 2001 Chevrolet Corvette.
You'll want to stay tuned to make sure that at Grandpa's pace. We've got more with Mark Ramport coming up.